Good day. Welcome to study session 8. Communication methods for reporting and recording in social work. Introduction. Collection of information for records requires some communication methods. These methods elicit important information or data from the source, usually the clients. Social workers, therefore, need to master the use of these methods in order to have good information or data for the record. Good communication methods usually lead to better reports, which culminate in records. And 2. State features of a good record in social work. 3. What are the communication methods in collecting information for the records in social work practice? 4. List the features of a good record in social work practice. There are some methods in which we can communicate or receive information or data for the records in social work. At least 9 of the communication methods in social work practice concerning records will be discussed in this lecture. These communication methods are: 1. Speech. 2. Sight. 3. Sound. 4. Actions. 5. Mannerisms. 6. Taste. 7. Smell. 8. Touch. 9. Silence. There are more communication methods. Speech. Speech is an obvious method of communication and usually is the one we think first. In social work practice, you must talk with the clients to be able to elicit information or data for your record purpose. The first step in practice is talking with the clients. Sight. Sight is, however, probably the most effective of all the communication methods because the mind thinks in pictures. Some studies have discovered that an average person is able to remember a mental picture of up to 80% of what he has seen, although this becomes progressively less as time goes on. On the other hand, he can usually only fully grasp and remember about 20% of what he has heard. What you see and record is more authentic than any other source. Sound. This is also a method but seldomly used for authentic record. It is only mentioned if such happened in the course of data collection to buttress or support the sightful information. Some clients make a lot of sound, shouting at an interview or casework process with the social worker. This shows the client's emotion on the issue at hand. Such sound is noted in the record as it may be useful to further investigation. Actions. It is popularly said that actions speak louder than words, and this is quite true. What the client does or how he reacts physically is important for the records. Mannerisms. Mannerisms have quite some connections with sight. Mannerisms cover facial expressions and other behavioral signals. Example, a smile or not, to show understanding. A puzzled frown or head scratching may show lack of understanding. Records must accommodate this to be truthful and accurate. Taste, smell, and touch. In some special cases in social work practice, taste, smell, and touch have some role to play in the records, especially in medical social work practice, and are so recorded. For example, in cases of bereavement, the social worker may have to touch the bereaved in form of petting. However, caution must be exercised, taking culture and gender into consideration. Silence. Sometimes social worker uses silence as communication method for records in social work practice. This could show deep understanding of client's words and unwillingness to interrupt him. The other end, our silence could show our social workers disapproval of what the client said. Our facial expressions may show him what we really think. All these are done towards having a good record. The features of good records in social work practice. There are some features that record must have before we can consider it good. These are that good record must be: 1. Clear. 2. Concise. 3. Complete. 4. Convincing. 5. Capable of being carried out. 1. Clear record. Records that must be adequate and acceptable must be clear. The social worker is expected as a professional to think very deeply about whatever information or data that will be used for records before putting it down in a language that is simple and unambiguous. Make the records as clear as possible. 2. Concise record. We must keep our records concise. Choose only the important words or phrases for recording. Words to be used for records must be cut out words which should not cause confusion. 3. Complete record. What makes a record complete is when it contains all information needed to carry out action required. A record that is complete will not be interpreted wrongly. Any professional social worker will understand a complete record. 4. Convincing record. For record to be acceptable, it must be convincing enough. Your record must be read by any social worker and be convinced of its authenticity. 5. Practical record. Recording must be capable of being carried out. Record must be practical and within capabilities of social workers. Unreasonable and impractical records will lead to frustration and even neglect. Finally, the features of a good record must be clear, concise, complete, convincing, and practical, that is, capable of being carried out. Study session summary. It requires some communication methods to be able to have a good record that will be useful to practice. These communication methods are speech, sight, sound, actions, mannerisms, taste, smell, touch, and silence. Some of these methods are used more in health social work. Social workers must be knowledgeable in the use of these communication methods to elicit data or information needed for the records. Therefore, a good, acceptable, and useful record must be clear, concise, complete, convincing, and capable of being carried out. In other words, a record must be practical. End of study session 8. Thank you for listening.